Michelle. How are you?
Good. How are you?
All right, let's get into it.
You're welcome. I'm assistant professor in applied psychology, and I'm associated with PSI, so that's the psychology social intervention, and I also teach the HDRP students as well. Well, that's a good question. So I was inspired to do psychology because I see the value of doing research and applying the findings into real world situations. So I'm hoping that some of my research can actually have tangible effects in communities as well as policy changes. Severance, hands down, Severance. The new season just came out, and I've been trying to hold off when I have time, but once in a while I kind of steal and watch a show. Yeah. Friends, my family, extended family is hilarious. So most of the time I just call my cousin or my brother, and it's always like, one of the funniest, most hilarious things our conversations are. Yeah. So I have a bachelor's degree in psychology and political science from the University of Ghana. And then I moved to the US and did a master's degree in developmental psychology at the University of Utah, and then moved to Clark University in Worcester, Massachusetts, where I completed a PhD in social psychology. So I just started. So I've taught two courses so far. So one is intervention and social change. It's for graduate students in applied psychology. And then the other course I teach is grant writing and grant management, which is for the HDRP students. I'm originally from Rwanda. So that's a country in East Africa that had horrific events in '94 when the genocide against the Tutsis took place. And I was a child at the time, and that sort of like left a big imprint on my mind, but also, a lot of people are affected as a result. So I was inspired to do things related to understanding conflict and violence in general, but also understanding why conflict takes place and what happens in the aftermath of conflict. Ooh, so I have two. I have Afrobeats. So that's the music that I listen to when I'm cleaning and I need to loosen up and get ready for writing and I need to get inspired. But I also love 90s R&B, 90s, early 2000 R&B music. So my most recent one is a paper that I published in ASAP that focuses on really trying to understand what acknowledgement looks like, acknowledgement of historical collective victimization looks like. So I worked on a paper on acknowledgement of slavery with Black Americans, what that looks like, Holocaust with Jews, Nakba with Palestinians, as well as Armenian genocide with Armenians. So that's one of my, it's recently published, so it's one of my most, my favorite publications. Okay, so I'm still reading one of them. This is the book that I'm reading called How We Get Free, Black Feminism and the Combahee River Collective. It was given to me by my PhD advisor when I graduated, and it's a book I always go to. So it's actually often on my desk, but it's one of my favorite books. Plant. I want to pretend I prefer spontaneous, but the reality is I do love a planned life. Yeah. Flat. Coffee shop. So I'm new to New York and I'm still discovering, but I will say I love Ethiopian food. It's not the best Ethiopian food in the US, but Awash restaurant in Brooklyn is one of my favorites. My first job was, so I'm going to age myself. I worked as a internet cafe attendant when I first started college at the University of Ghana. So people used to come to use the internet at this cafe, and I used to be able to, get them started and stuff like that. But yes. I would say that I'm kind. I do tend to practice that as like being intentional about being kind. Not nice, but kind. That's the best compliment that I've received, yes. Yes, of course. So let's see. I'll start here because it's still a work in progress. So I have 2 kids who are the love of my life. I started having them in grad school. So I have a 6-year-old girl called Ariam. This is her right here. And then a 3-year-old son called Tesfa, who is here. So a lot of these pictures are of my family and broadly speaking. So I have my cousin who is my best friend here. This is my late mom who died when I was still little, so I don't have a more recent picture. And then my dad, my grandfather, my brother and his family, my extended family, my cousins. So it's really pictures of my family, and I love looking at them when I'm working because they are my inspiration. So this is a picture, as I said, I'm originally from Rwanda. So this is a picture that was taken over Lake Burera by a friend of a friend. So a very good friend of mine shared it with me when I started my job here and said, you have to have pictures of Rwanda in your office. So that's what that is. There's so much to love about working in academia, but one of the things I love is the people that I get to work with every day. I get inspired by a lot of my colleagues. I get inspired by the students, and then being able to ask questions and answer them and developing interventions that could potentially have impact on the world is really a blessing to be in academia, to do that sort of work. I probably would be a lawyer. Yes, something related to law for sure. Or I would do something related to child development, because those are sort of the things that keep me up at night. Okay, so there's this meme. Again, I'm going to age myself because it's quite long. It was a long time ago, but I think it's still being used. Of this kid who jumped on a desk and was dancing and being like hyped up by his classmates. I think that's one of my favorite memes. There's so much in it that it just brings a smile to my face. Yeah, the support from his classmates, the hyped up, the joy, the black boy joy. There's so much I love about that meme, and it always brings a smile to my face when I see it. So I would say, develop strategies on learning how to learn, and then really just honestly work hard, create community, especially if you decide to do a PhD. It's a long journey, but it can be done well, especially if you're surrounded by a supportive community. So make sure you work hard, make sure you create support systems that will inspire you and push you, especially during the dark times, and then make sure that you're following your passions. Don't follow the fad. Follow what really brings joy to your life.
I love it. Yeah, that's 21 questions.
That's it?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Yeah.